Happy Devil's Wednesday. It is August 21st. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 19, titled Show Me Your Heart. Show Me Your Heart. I am your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano, the Pucks and Pitchforks blog, editor-in-chief. We got a loaded podcast tonight. We got Chris Ryan of NJ.com, New Jersey Advanced Media, coming on to the podcast shortly. We got Beer Baron. Beer Baron's going to be talking about beers. Lots of beers. And we got Rob Deluca, Pucks and Pitchforks. We're going to be playing a little game that's become very popular on the podcast of the State of the Fan Address. We are streaming live on letsgodevils.com and all the social media platforms, Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, Twitch. We're getting popular everywhere by the minute. Let's get to the podcast. Nick, I think you have a lot of things to say right now. What's the hot topic that you want to bring up tonight?
Now, we just wanted to start with this because I feel like this is a me and you conversation, Sam. I feel like this could get sensitive, so we wanted to kind of control the message here. I didn't write a blog about this personally, and I'm not going to have any of my writers write a blog on this because I feel like a lot is going to get lost in translation unless you can hear tone, unless you can see facial expressions. So I felt like this was the perfect outlet for us to kind of talk about this. Now, there's a video going around right now of Jack Hughes, what appears to be Jack Hughes. I feel like it's clearly him, but he hasn't commented it, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it appears to be Jack Hughes, basically asking a woman to take off her top. Okay, so he was on one of those, he was on a balcony. He was talking to the girl down. For the most part, it appears to be no harm, no foul. He didn't, he didn't touch anybody. He didn't do anything against anybody's will. He used words and he said something and he did something, whatever, that 18-year-olds sometimes do. So Jack Hughes, he made a decision when he was out with friends, and we've all been in that situation where you're macho, you're kind of like, you got, I'm somewhat famous. I'm a big guy. People know who I am. People want to talk to me. People want my signature, my autograph, and you get a little big for your britches or whatever. I don't know what his mindset was, or maybe he just, whatever. Maybe he's an 18-year-old who, just says stuff. Either way, I think that it was something that I don't want to say no harm, no foul because we didn't see the end of the video, but from what we've seen so far, I feel like he hasn't done anything terrible. But at the same time, I do think that this is worthy of a conversation between Ray and Jack because he has to understand who he is now. He's the number one overall pick. He's a superstar already. 80-year-old men wear his name on their back. I think he has to understand the responsibility that comes with that. And I feel like, this was a temporary lapse in judgment for that. This is a kid. He comes from what appears to be a great family and what appears to be good morals and good, he seems to have a good head on his shoulders, but this seems to be a temporary lapse in judgment. And it just happened to happen in public where everyone has a camera today. And I hope he learns his lesson here because if, we've seen some people who haven't, like say, for example, like Ezekiel Elliott on the Dallas Cowboys, he had an incident with a woman where he made a silly mistake or whatever you want to call it. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. He just made a stupid decision. And then, a couple months later, he got caught on camera fighting a security guard. So you don't, not saying that this is going to escalate that. I'm just saying that there's cameras everywhere. So every mistake that he makes, he just needs to make sure that he learns from them and doesn't do them again. I don't. What do you think, Sam?
Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, at first, when I saw that video, now let me preface with saying that I'm not so innocent. When I was 18 in college, going around, okay. But it seemed like it was after seeing all those videos on Jack Hughes before the draft, after the draft. One of the things that we commented about was, wow, he's really, really mature for his age. How he handles the press, the things that he was saying, and it was just a little bit out of character when I saw that video. And I think the Devils management should take this seriously because it's definitely a learning lesson. Number one, and this goes for all of us, it's not just Jack Hughes. There are cameras everywhere now. The way you behave in public, you are in public domain. People are going to have cameras on you, especially when you're the first overall pick of the New Jersey Devils. Secondly, I noticed, and I'm not going to make a joke out of it, but because, we're supposed to, talk about it in a more serious light, but he was wearing a New York Yankees hat. He's lucky there because it wasn't a New Jersey Devils hat, because that could really, I wouldn't say tarnish the brand, but that would make, if I was the owner of the New Jersey Devils or upper management, I'd be a little bit queasy on that. But let's not blow this out out of proportion. It is a learning lesson, and I'm sure somebody's going to say something to Jack, and I'm sure that he will learn his lesson. It's just one of these missteps, but just remember as well, he's only 18. He just turned 18 not too long ago. So these are, kind of, the growing pains of an NHL rookie. He hasn't set foot on the ice yet. But you represent the league on and off the ice, and certainly, it may have been innocent at that time, but the optics don't look good, and it reflects, upon the people around you, whether it's intentional or not. So that's how I kind of feel about that, Nick. But a lot of people have opinions. Now, granted, I have a sense of humor too. I get it. But at the end of the day, the world we live in right now, you have to evolve. Had that happened 25 years ago, I don't know. I think we may have thought differently. But right now, today is today. I mean, he is the future of the franchise. You have to be careful out there, and you have to think about, your actions, whether they're, subtle or not. There are cameras running 24/7. In today's world.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely it. I saw one comment that kind of made me think even harder about this. It was from a Rangers fan who said, if this was Kakko, you guys would be all over him. And part of me is like, I think I would be. I think it'd be like, see? And now today, that also shows that these two are going to be tied hip to hip through everything. Not just how many goals each scores, not how much, how far their team goes, but off the ice too. The mistakes they make, the decisions they make, the endorsements they get. And this was a mistake through and through. It wasn't a bad one. It wasn't, something that's going to bring criminal charges. I don't believe, from what I saw, it's not. But it's something that he has to take and learn from immediately. Like, this is not, it's like, a rich kid, like, I can get away from these things, get away with these things, but you can't in certain cases. And this kid, this kind of behavior can snowball if you just not saying that, I don't know what his mindset is, but we've seen it before with other people where this is snowballed. So we just have to, the Devils have to make sure, and Jack has to make sure that this was a one-time mistake that's never going to happen again.
Yeah, and again, like I said earlier, it's a learning lesson. It's a big learning lesson. And, again, I don't want to just drag this out to a long conversation, but, maybe this is a blessing in disguise because, it was just that. It is what it is. But you don't want this to manifest to something bigger. And on top of that, that they're going to keep a close eye on Jack because he's going to need, leadership around him. He's young, mentors. And you remember when how Scott Stevens was when he became captain and how he mentored all those young players that went through the farm system that made it to the New Jersey Devils. You talk about Patrick Elias, Sergey Brelin, character guys, John Madden, Jay Pandolfo, all these guys.
Scott Gomez. Scott Gomez came when he was really much older, but he still took a big influence from him.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, the optics don't look well on it, but it should be discussed, but we shouldn't blow it out of proportion. And I think the last thing I want to say about that is, I really hate all this clickbait stuff, turning something bigger than what it is. It's almost like the haha gotcha. I got you on video, this and that. I mean, I don't understand what's the point of it. And I'm not excusing Jack Hughes at all. What's the point of posting that online? Like, what is your motive? Who took that video as well? Sometimes you take video if it was funny, this and that, but it just seems like it's just negative light. And I just never understood that.
I think somebody was just taking a video of Jack Hughes. It's like, oh, look, that's a famous person on a balcony. Like people do it with actors and singers and any athlete. People are very obsessed with famous people. So they see a famous person, they put the video on. The famous person does something stupid, and they just happen to have it on video because, again, that's the world we live in. You're always going to have video on you when you're famous. You got to live with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's tons of comments in the Facebook Live, and Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube. But let me get Chris Ryan from NJ.com on in a few minutes. Nick, you may want to read some of this and that before we get Chris on. All right.
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna zoom out into you, Nick. Take over.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of you guys just commenting. Most of you seem to agree, which I'm surprised with. I thought I was going to get a couple people saying that I was overreacting, but I don't think I am. I think that this was a mistake, and I think calling it a mistake is not unfair to anybody. I think calling it a mistake is calling it what it is. But you're right. I think learning is the most important part of this. I think learning, whether that is Ray Shero have to intervening or whether that's just somebody, maybe even Nico coming in and saying, hey man, like, I understand, like, I was the number 1 overall pick and he had all of Sweden looking at, all of Switzerland looking at him and, wondering what he was going to say. Wondering what he was going to do, wondering decisions that they were going to make. So, every decision that Jack Hughes makes from now on, while he's a superstar, is going to be criticized, looked over, onced over, dissected, intersected. It's going to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb, and he has to understand that. And I feel like this is going to help him learn. Luckily, this is, like I said, this is something that's it's just a video right now. It's not something that's going to, it's not something that's going to have people stop rooting for him. I don't think it's something that's going to have people give up on him. But it is something that's it is going to have people think a little differently. Like, this was perfect Jack. And then Jack made a mistake. It's his first mistake, but it's his first mistake before he made any good play on the ice. So just an interesting thing to think about because I feel like he could have just not done it. Obviously, like I know that seems obvious to say and seems kind of like pointless words, but I've looked back at things that I've done in my past and I said I could have just not did that. And, I'm not famous. I talk to you guys. That's the most famous that I am. But there are things that I've done that I'm like, if that got on video, then I wouldn't have liked the thing that I've seen. So let's just hope that that's the same situation when we're wondering here. Sam, I see you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. We have a great guest that's about to come on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline. I follow his articles. I follow his tweets. You know him as Chris Ryan, New Jersey Devils reporter for NJ.com. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Ryan _NJ. Chris, you are on the State of the Fan address with Sam and Nick. Before we begin, congratulations on getting married. How was the honeymoon?
Thanks for having me, guys. It was fantastic. We went to Key West for a full week. Other than losing our bag at the end of the trip, had a great time.
Oh, you're in Florida. You were in my neck of the woods. Oh, wow. I was going to ask for some wedding advice, but I feel like my wedding, like every week, it's another fire that I have to put out, and it's going to be different every week. Is that basically what happens when you get married? Like, it's just a different fire to put out every week?
Yeah, pretty much. No matter how much you plan, no matter how simple you try to keep it, you're going to run into trouble every step of the way, including on the wedding day, which is the most fun part. But once you get through it, it all kind of calms down, and you get back to normal life after that point.
Well, I'm sure people are sick of us talking about our weddings and that nobody here is invited to. So why don't we talk about a little New Jersey Devils hockey, Chris? You're doing a little series here talking about the 18 most important Devils. I believe the first 5 are out, correct? The first 5 are out so far?
I think so. I think we started last Thursday. I've done every day other than the weekend. So I think we're through 5 up to 14, I believe.
Now there's we're only at 5, and I have 100 questions so far, and I don't even know who's number 13 through 1, but I think I have plenty to go off of here. I see it. Miles Wood was the first one you did something on. He came in at number 18. I am honestly surprised he even made it. I know a lot of people are kind of really down on Miles Wood, but he was the first guy you did. Can you tell me what makes him an important part of the Devils, or is he not an important part of the Devils? That's why he's so far down the list.
I still think he is an important part, as you see throughout the NHL. I mean, good teams, they're loaded up, not loaded, but they're good up and down the lineup. They need guys on the third, fourth line that can contribute and take a little bit of that pressure off that top 6. And that's what you've seen from the Devils, especially last year, where they couldn't really get that production down the lineup. So I think he's still definitely an important player and a guy who's probably going to line up in that bottom 6 there. Just with the way I made the list, I thought with what he did 2 years ago, being kind of a fourth line player, being a guy that only got maybe 12, 13 minutes a night, but still found a way to put up 19 goals. I think that's kind of the role they need him to be in, especially with everything they've added in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I remember last year, a lot of us fans, and a lot of my writers were just talking about how, we got to give Miles Wood more minutes. He was getting 9 minutes some nights and scoring 2 points. And now I'm talking about the playoff year. And then last year, he had the contract dispute. He missed part of training camp. It just seemed like he never got his legs back. And obviously, he was playing with a mostly injured lineup. He was put in situations for him to not succeed. But are you expecting a bounce back from Miles Wood?
I am. I think he'll have a little more success being able to put the puck in net. When I was writing him up the other week, just looking at, he actually shot the puck more than he did a year ago. He was a little bit more kind of present in the offensive zone, just with everything he did. The shots just didn't go in for him. So I think maybe he's not a 20, 25 goal scorer, but I think you'll see an uptick from the 10 he had a year ago, and just kind of a more evening out and maybe getting a little bit more lucky with what he's putting on net.
Yeah, I feel like when you're a fourth liner, if you don't get the luck, your numbers are going to pretty much tank. Now, the guy you have next is probably the one that it surprises me the most. Blake Coleman's one of the most popular Devils players, and he was extremely important last year. He, was one of the Devils' best penalty killers. And he found his scoring stroke. Obviously it's later in, for a player who's just in his second full season in the NHL, that's late in the career to finally hit the peak for him. But he scored 22 goals last year, and he really rewarded the Devils for giving him that 3-year deal in the offseason. But why is he so far down the list? He's behind, Zacha and Andy Green. Why you got Coleman so far down?
He certainly, when I kind of went back and looked at him, I probably could have bumped him up a few spots because, like you said, if I was doing a list from who were the most important Devils in 2018-19, he probably would have been top 5, just from everything he did and all the injuries they went through and what he was able to do and still produce no matter who was on the ice with him. So I think ultimately what my logic was he's still going to be a bottom 6 forward on this team when they're fully healthy. But he's still going to be an important guy who is going to be one of their top penalty killers, a guy that, like Wood didn't do a year ago, who can score in the bottom 6. And I think that's just where it kind of fell. And I think I just ranked the defensemen a little bit more just because of the Devils' need back there and what they need to get out of that unit. But that's kind of why Blake Coleman fell in that range. But he, again, like you said, you could easily argue that he's more important than a guy like Zacha or Green or even Butcher or maybe a guy like Wayne Simmons coming in at this point. But he's certainly a versatile guy, and I think he will ultimately be a big part of this team if they're going to do anything this year.
Now, when you're putting together the list, obviously we don't need to talk about who's coming next. We don't want to spoil anything. We want everybody to sit in anticipation for the next Chris Ryan article every day. But I want to know, when you put this list together, who didn't make it that kind of maybe surprised even you?
I think the two biggest I didn't include more because we just don't know exactly what they're going to bring this year if they do bring anything, or would be 2 rookies in Jesper Boquist and Ty Smith. There are 2 guys that could easily be in the opening lineup on opening night, 2 guys that could be with the team the entire year. But we'll have to see what they can do in training camp. And when it's all said and done, you look back at this, they may be somewhere in that 12-10 range in terms of importance of what they do in this team, because they're both high caliber prospects, guys that are eventually going to make an NHL impact. So with this, I just wanted to see what they could do before I kind of group them in with the guys that are returning.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. You don't, again, like you said, you don't know how important those guys are going to be. I mean, on paper, they look pretty important, especially when we're comparing. We had a piece a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about how this could mimic 2017-18, where they had Butcher, Nico, and Bratt kind of playing that role. It's kind of almost ironic that you have, again, a center, a winger, and a defenseman coming in that could play serious roles right away. Obviously, we didn't have those kinds of expectations for Bratt, or even, but I think Butcher was just signed at this point. But we didn't have the expectations coming in. We thought that Butcher was going to fight for a final spot. We thought that Nico was going to be like a 3rd-line center. We thought that Bratt was going to play in Sweden. But now we have these high expectations for Smith, Boquist, and you add Hughes to that list. So since they didn't make the list, obviously you think that the Devils could probably live with them. Not Hughes, but the other for Smith and Boquist, that they can live without major contributions from them. But what do you think you need to see out of the 3 in general? What would you need to see, you think, to make the Devils more competitive?
I'll start with Ty Smith because out of him and Boquist, I think he's the one that has a pretty clear path to a roster spot just with the way they're constructed and what they have left. And he's someone I do expect to make the team out of camp. For him, I think if he does make the team, he'll probably end up being in a role like Will Butcher was during his rookie year, playing in the 3rd pairing, playing some sheltered minutes, getting some time, a lot of time in the offensive zone. And I think if he can come in training camp and show that he can at least handle a level of NHL competition defensively, he probably won't see a lot of top pairing matchups if the Devils can avoid it. But I think if he can come in and play that role like Butcher did a couple years ago, he's definitely got a role on this team. Someone who can move the puck and help drive possession and get some offense going for them at 5-on-5. And then with Boquist, he's an interesting guy just because you don't know, do you want him playing in a bottom six role, maybe getting 10, 12 minutes a night, maybe a little bit of power play time, or would you rather have him over in Sweden developing for one more year and then being able to come in just a year more mature, a little bit more physical, able to handle the NHL role. So it's going to be interesting to see what Boquist shows and if the Devils are willing to keep him in a smaller role unless he's able to play his way up. And with Hughes, like you said with Nico, you expect him to come in and be maybe a third line center a couple of years ago. But I think if the expectations are higher for Jack, you kind of think he can take that second line center role, step in right away, be a top six player just with the pedigree he had coming out of the draft. And I think that's going to be the expectation for him going into the season.
So one more quick thing on Smith, and this is just because I can't personally figure it out. So maybe somebody who's around the team could maybe you could put it in a different perspective. But I'm looking at Smith, and I feel like for him to succeed, he needs to have a power play role. But when I look at this Devils team, you got PK Subban, you got Will Butcher, you got Damon Severson. Sammy Vatanen can play power play minutes. Are the Devils going to be forced to play with two defensemen on each power play unit just to get these four extremely talented power play specialists on? Or do you think that John Hines is going to have one man be the odd man out?
That's a really good question, and it's honestly one of the things I'm most curious to see about once we do get to training camp and later into the preseason, because as you guys know, Hines typically goes with four forwards and one defenseman with his power play units. And even a year ago, maybe with Vatanen and Severson playing on a unit, it was a little bit of an exception, but it'll be tough to get all four guys time, like you said. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out. And with Smith, that would be probably his best area coming into the NHL, an area where he would be able to step right in and have an impact. So I feel like if he's on the team, the Devils will have to find a way to get him time on the power play just because it'll get him going, it'll get him comfortable, and it's just a matter of just trying to figure out the configurations and who will be the odd man out, whether it's a defenseman or one of the forwards.
So, Chris, just to kind of get sidetracked a little bit, I see that there's a very large Taylor Hall conversation going on in the chat, and I feel like that this is a recurring theme for anything Devils related, where, now that everything else has been taken care of, you took care of the number one defenseman role, you took care of the second line center role, you took care of the extra winger role. The only thing that seems left to do is sign Taylor Hall. Now, I'm sure you're going to have this question 1,000 times, and we won't make you answer what you think they should do. But we'll ask you, how do you think this is going to impact the team if we go into training camp and eventually the season with an unsigned Taylor Hall?
In terms of their play on the ice, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. I mean, it's going to be a topic all year long if he remains unsigned, and it's going to be unavoidable for him to answer those questions, for teammates to answer those questions. But I think when all is said and done, when it comes to actually playing hockey, the guys will be able to kind of separate that. They're all pro athletes. Other athletes have been through that situation before. So I don't think it'll have an on-ice impact, but it will certainly be a lingering question that will continue to be asked, and rightfully so, until a decision is made, whether that's in the coming weeks, in the coming months, or on July 1st, almost a year from now.
Now, one thing that we were discussing is kind of who's going to be fighting for that last spot on the roster. And, you saw I'm sure you saw highlights of the prospect tournament, and there's been some workout videos. I don't know if you've seen, but PK Subban likes to show his workout videos. But we've seen some workouts from other guys too. When it comes to that last spot on the roster, when you look at the lines, it looks like there's one spot left. Do you see any surprises going for that spot, or is it as cut and dry as Jesper Boquist versus Joey Anderson as it seems?
I think there will certainly be some competition. Like you said, Boquist and Anderson will definitely be in the mix there. I don't know where you guys view Kevin Rooney, but I think he's going to only end up on this team in some role just based on what he did a year ago. And him being on a one-way contract this year, I think he's kind of earned his right to maybe be on that fourth line or even just an extra forward. on the final roster. But I do think, I know he didn't show a ton in his NHL time last year. I'm sure Michael McLeod will have some kind of say in trying to make a push for that roster, along with Nathan Bastian too. We only saw him for a handful of games because of his injury a year ago, but when he was on the ice in the NHL, he found a way to make an impact. He scored a few goals and looked more like a player that was NHL ready from what he was a year or two earlier. So I think those guys will definitely be in the mix. And then you never know with a few AHL guys, maybe Fabian Zetterlund comes over and wows right away and shows that he's ready, even though I do think he'll ultimately end up in Binghamton to start. But I think there are going to be 4 or 5 guys that are in competition for that final spot.
I mean, you brought up Zetterlund, and that's a guy that I really like. That's him as a player. Just I feel like that he was really just in over his head last year when he was playing in the men's league. But that's going to really help him when he comes over and the AHL and plays with a bunch of other players that are more in the situation that he's in. It's hard to be an 18-year-old playing with a bunch of men who don't understand the situation you're in, but he's coming over. He's playing with a lot of guys his age, a year or two older. They can kind of build that camaraderie. So I think that's going to help a guy like Zetterlund, like Maltsev, like a couple of these other guys that they signed to come play for the AHL roster. But I'm really excited to see him in camp. Camp is a couple weeks away. We're almost there. The doldrums of the offseason are almost finished. And everybody's going back to Newark to kind of get their bearings. We kind of get to see this team, see it for what it actually is. And, that's going to be my professional transition to my next question for you, Chris. And I want to know, what do you think is going to be different about covering this team? Like I said, it starts in a couple weeks. You're almost at camp, but you reported on a team last year that was, it was a revolving door of minor leaguers and talking to players after they lost every night. And, it was a frustrating year to say the least. And I'm sure it was frustrating for even the beat writers on the beat, because you want to cover a winning team. You want to, get the fans excited, get people behind it. So what do you think is going to be different this year from this year to last year, just as a beat reporter on this team?
I think what'll be different, a lot, especially down the stretch last year when they were out of it and playing, like you said, all those minor leaguers. It was always kind of a focus on the future. Like, what are these guys doing to make their case for a year from now? What are they doing to develop? How are they showing in the NHL for the first time in their first 10, 15 games? And really even go back to my first season, which was 2016, 17. That's kind of always been the focus. Even when they made the playoffs in 2017, 18, they were a young team still trying to prove themselves. And it was always about what are they trying to build and how are these guys developing and what are they going to be in a few years when they can potentially be a contender again if everything goes as they plan. And now after everything they've added, drafting Hughes, adding Subban, signing Simmons, trading for Gusev, and having the Taylor Hall contract situation, it's much more about now for the Devils than it was a year or two ago. It's going to be the focus of how can this team become a contender right now? How can they live up to expectations, which are suddenly much higher than they were a year ago? How can they mold and kind of continue to grow and prove that they can be a consistent winner versus just a one-off like they were 2 years ago? So I think that'll be the biggest thing. How can this team handle actual expectations of contending in the league and being a consistent winner and maybe getting back to the playoffs?
Oh, with so much new talent, like you were saying, it's a lot of new. Which one would you say you're most excited to see in person? Which one are you most excited to see on a night in, night out basis?
I think the obvious answer would be Jack Hughes, just being able to see what he can transition to the NHL, just being an 18-year-old, probably going to be the first ever guy from the U.S. program to make that immediate jump. But I'm honestly most curious to see what Nikita Gusev does, just because he's such a unique case, being the fact that he's played in Russia his whole career. He blossomed into a star in the KHL. Just how is he going to transition to the league? And is he going to be a guy who comes in like Panarin and tears up the league and continues doing what he's doing? Or is he going to take some time to adjust to the league? So I'm just most curious to see how exactly he'll fit in and what he can actually bring to the table, because there's a pretty wide range of outcomes for him. And the ceiling of what he could be is very high. And if he comes in and shows it to be that, it's going to be pretty fun to watch.
So are you getting all your goose puns ready for every single game? Kind of throwing a goose pun in each NJ.com article?
Oh, certainly. We've been thinking as beat writers, myself, Abby, and Corey, going back to before they even traded for him, because a lot of fans were talking of trading for Gusev, and I won't say which one of us was going to do it, but one of us was just going to tweet a random Goose GIF with no context at all well before they traded for him, just to kind of throw everybody off. But it didn't happen, obviously, but we're working on our puns, and as you guys know, we like to be a little bit competitive and snarky on Twitter. So we'll have a few ones ready to go once training camp gets here.
I am very excited to see that. Now, the last question I have for you, Chris, before we let you go about your night and enjoy your recent nuptials, I just want to know, what do you expect out of this team? Realistically, I've seen it all over the map. On some of the people who have covered this team and some of the people who just cover hockey nationally. I've seen, it's going to take them a year to really gel, and this isn't the year to make the playoffs. And I've seen Metropolitan Division winners predictions out of this team. So, Chris, help me out. Where are we right now?
I think the baseline for them is they're going to have to contend for a playoff spot. They're built for it now. They've loaded up. They're going to be healthy again, which is one of their biggest problems a year ago, too. So I think that's a fairly safe expectation for them to say that they're going to contend for a playoff spot, whether that be a wild card or maybe they sneak into that division race. With you mentioning maybe contending for the division, if everything breaks right, not just for them, but kind of around the league, if the Capitals and Penguins kind of fall off after so many years on top, and the Islanders and Blue Jackets regress, and the Devils are able to jump the Hurricanes and the Rangers and whatnot. I think there's definitely the case to be made that this team could win the division if everything goes right. But I think it'll take maybe a year or two before they're truly contending for a division title like that. But I think contending for a playoff spot, being a team that's going to be in the mix until the end of the year, is certainly a realistic expectation. That's kind of my view going into the year.
Chris, before we let you go, I've already thought of a little bit of a headline. If this situation ever happens with Gusev, the Devils beat the Rangers 1-0. Gusev game-winning goal, so it should be like Goose scores, Rangers lay egg. How about that?
I finished that one before you got there. That's not bad, actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You don't have to pander to him. No, don't. I just want Tom Cruise night, so it could be Goose and Maverick one last time.
That's also very good, but you might be stealing a few of my puns in every season.
Or the hot Jester's dead, all that good stuff. But Chris, thank you so much for coming on to the State of the Fan Address, and I hope to have you on soon.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Anytime.
All right. Thank you. That is Chris Ryan of NJ.com. Is it still called the Star Ledger? They still have the print version? I don't buy newspapers anymore. I just go online.
Sam, I haven't lived in New Jersey in 10 years. So newspapers have died since I've been in New Jersey. So I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, anytime I go out to a restaurant and get my Taylor ham, egg, and cheese, there's a Star Ledger there sometimes. And I start reading off of that, just like the good old days. Yeah, I don't know if we should, do we introduce them as NJ.com and Star Ledger, or, with the Bergen Record and NorthJersey.com? I just don't know anymore. I just don't know. But, hey, he's a great guest. I was enjoying producing behind the scenes while you were doing that interview, Nick. And he knows his stuff, man. He knows his stuff. It was good to finally put a voice to the words, from NJ.com.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring that up. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to bring it up that I've never heard his voice. I've seen him speak for years now, but I've never actually put a voice to the name or the Twitter tweets or the articles, and it's kind of interesting how you finally hear these guys, and we had a similar situation last week with Dan Rice, where you read their stuff, and you kind of have your own voice that they have in your head, right?
Yep.
And then you hear them, you're like, oh, that's not what I thought he was going to sound like. But now from now on, every time you read their stuff, you read it in their voice. It's like it's kind of like that interesting little subconscious thing we do.
Yeah. Yeah, and plus, after reading his articles for the last couple years, it's like that's what I enjoy about producing and hiding, from the camera when I can switch it over is I didn't want to say anything stupid and look dumb and make us look dumb. That's why I let you do the interview the entire time, Nick. But yeah, he's maybe one day I'll tweet him out some good headliners.
Oh yeah,
I'm good with that stuff.
Oh yeah, we actually have a good amount of questions. Surprise, surprise! The Let's Go Devils podcast fans are out here asking good questions. I know a lot of them probably asked them for Chris, but we're gonna give you the next best thing, and that's me answering your questions while Sam goes and gets Beer Baron because we are talking beer tonight. But first, I see Matt F. This year all falls on the goaltending. The offense and defense is drastically improved on paper, and I'm not worried that it won't transition from paper to the ice. Matt, I agree with you. I feel like the goaltending is the most important part of the season. Whether if Blackwood can play like he did at the end of last season, or if Schneider can play like he did at the end of last season. We don't even need Schneider to play like he did when, in 2016, 2017 Schneider. We just need we need last year end of season Schneider. So if we can get last year end of season Schneider again, I think we'll be in good shape. I think that we can actually make moves in this Metropolitan Division. I don't know if we're going to beat the Capitals. That's the one that's the one team in the Metropolitan Division that I look at us side by side and I say some things have to work out in our favor for us to beat them out. I feel like they're still just, having Braden Holt be in net, getting rid of Niskanen and Orpik on the back end. That might be a positive in itself. I see Christopher talking about shout out to Bill Guerin. Yeah, Bill Guerin getting the GM job in Minnesota. That was somewhat of a surprise. I didn't expect him to be, I didn't expect him to be in the GM race that fast. He was a great player. He was working with the Penguins staff, and the Penguins staff has been making some mistakes lately, but good for Bill Guerin. Sam, Bill Guerin getting the GM job in Minnesota. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I thought I was thinking of bringing it up with Chris, but see what his thoughts with that. I mean, look, Bill Guerin, Stanley Cup champion multiple times, right? Didn't he win it with Pittsburgh as well?
Yeah, he won it with Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, great American, played on many Olympic teams. A little bit of a surprise, but you know what? I think he'll do well there. I think he'll do really well
he can't do any worse than the guy before him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I have a little bit of an issue here, Nick. Somehow, the graphics suddenly disappeared. So I don't.
So do we have Beer Baron?
Well, we have Beer Baron on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline, but I don't have any graphics to go with that. So I can patch him in, and I'll quickly get to it. Okay?
Yeah, it's fine. We can. People know Beer Baron.
Yeah, they don't need to see his face. Beer Baron, you're on the State of the Fan address talking about beers. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I'm actually sitting here enjoying a beautiful Cape May Brewing Coastal Evacuation Double IPA as we speak. So, speaking of beer, Jersey beer, it's going pretty good. So, I just want to let you guys know that I entered that contest that the Devils are holding right now to work with Magic Hat up in New Hampshire and come up with a brand new beer for the Devils. And let me tell you, if I win this contest, when I win this contest, just put it that way, when I win this contest, we're not only just going to make the most fabulous beer ever, it's going to be the greatest thing that has ever happened to the barley soda industry and the hockey industry all at once.
That's high aspirations, Beer Baron. That's big. But I mean, if anybody's going to take control of a beer and turn the industry on its head, it's the Beer Baron. I got to give you the props there.
I mean, it's not just a moniker that I've, gotten over the years because of my love and affection for The Simpsons. It's also because of my love for the frosty cold beverage. But honestly, it's, all joking aside, I think it's such a cool idea, and I think it's a really good idea. I think the only problem that I have with this is that there are so many awesome breweries in the state of New Jersey that I think they kind of missed the mark. I don't know behind the scenes stuff, and I hope I'm not damning myself that I'm now not going to win this contest by saying this kind of stuff. But, they could have gone to Kane, they could have gone to Cape May, they could have gone to the various other, large, small breweries that are within the state, which I have to say I've sampled plenty of them, and they're absolutely incredible. There's one that just opened up down the street from my house called Chitlin Mill, and if you ever have a chance to go check them out, they have some of the most tasty beer that you'll ever have. But I think that's my only gripe with this whole situation is I wish they would have worked with a brewery here in New Jersey.
And you go, Sam.
Oh, I was just going to add, I think Grant Marshall is part of that, right? Am I correct, Beer Baron?
Yes, he is.
Have you used have you been using your strategic advantage of knowing Grant to see if he'll come over to the Beer Baron side?
I mean, it'd be nice if he looked through the pile of entries and said, wait a second, I recognize this guy's name, and just kind of slid across whoever's desk is in charge of this. Although if that happened, a lot of people will be, crying foul about it. But I promise you this, if or when I do win this contest, it will be well worth it. It will be something that I'll take great pride in. And I think that it's also something that is great for the Devils. I mean, this is just another one of those things that they're doing with their marketing division that I think is really good for the team. Things that you wouldn't see during the Lou Lamoriello era. It's just like the changing of the guard of things that have been going on since Ray has taken over the team. And I think it's it's just like a great experiment for the Devils to reach out to the fans, for them to work with Magic Hat, who is an amazing brewery. I'm not trying to take anything away from them by saying I wish they would have done it with a brewer in New Jersey. It's just personal opinion. But I think it's awesome. I think it's a step forward in that gap, bridging the gap between the actual team and all the fans.
Yeah, I agree with you, Beer Baron. I Magic Hat number 9 is going to be one of the all-time brews in my opinion. It's a great taste. It's a really good brewery. I'm glad they didn't match themselves with Yuengling or Budweiser or something like that, because that would have been just clear product placement. At least they did with kind of a somewhat of a brewer that's where am I trying to go with this? It's not
more like a micro brewer than like a big name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a mass-produced brew. It is by definition, but it's not Budweiser. It's not Miller Lite. It's not, Coors Brewing Company, or, it's not like hiding Rolling Rock as if it's not, made by one of the big makers. But so tell me what you do with this beer. What is the typical New Jersey Devils taste in your opinion?
See, that's a great question, because I feel like there's a couple of different avenues that you can go down. The first one being, what do you want the ABV to be? I think it's kind of appropriate if you make the ABV or the alcohol content of the beer to be about a 6.66, right? That'd be kind of nice to do something like that. Then after that, you want to talk about what kind of body of beer do you want to make? What kind of, are we making an IPA, or are we making this, or making that? I think a red lager would probably be one of the better bets to go with, especially fitting with the Devils, fitting with their color. but there's so many different things. There's so many different tastes, and there's so many different directions that you could go with this, that, you know, it would be super interesting to see whoever does win this contest, what kind of serious input they have on this, you know, because personally, like I said, not only would I come up with a great name, and which I will not divulge because I don't want somebody to steal it, but having a graphic design background, I'd be able to help design the label for it. There's so many amazing opportunities that could happen right now.
I feel like you're correct. Oh. Yeah, no, I totally agree that, you know, I think a red ale would be interesting. I think that, you know, I've been on like a brown ale kick, and I think it might be a Florida thing because I go to other cities and they're hard to find, or maybe they're just sparse in general. So I didn't enter the contest. I don't think they picked me because I say too many mean things, but you know, I would probably lean towards the brown ale just because it's my personal preference, and I don't think there's enough on the market. And I think, you know, Magic Hat could, you know, make $1 trillion, you know, venture with a Devils themed brown ale, you know, just corner the market right off the bat.
Well, I'll tell you, man, you know, one of my dreams is once we get past the private jet of selling all those T-shirts that we're going to have to amass, I think Sam put a $35 million price tag on that. After we're done with that, our next venture should be opening up a small microbrew and coming up with a Let's Go Devils beer of our own. So even if we don't win this contest, it's all good. It's all gravy, man. We'll come up with something on our own. We'll come up with our own brand, our own name. We'll surpass whatever, you know, beer that they could put out there. But I do have to tell you, if you're looking for a good brown ale, one that's made up here in this area, I think in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia, is a company called Yards. And they have I think it's called the Brawler, which is a brown ale, which is an awesome, awesome beer.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of Yards, but I've never had their brown ale. Like I said, it's a new distinction for me. I'm usually the guy that goes for the fruity beers, but now my tastes have changed ever since I've turned 30.
That usually will happen. The older you get, I'm a beer drinker of seasons, if you will. So as soon as we get into the colder months, or as soon as we get into the fall, beginning of hockey season, there's a lot of Oktoberfest. There's a lot of even the pumpkin ales. There's a lot of changing with the season. And then you get into the winter months when hockey is really full in swing. I know if you go to like a hockey game, you can't really find a lot of super, you know, good craft ales. Although that's kind of changing in the last couple of years, especially since Prudential Center is open. It used to be like you have your choice of Budweiser, you have your choice of Bud Light, and then you have your choice of somebody peeing in a bottle and giving it to you. And pretty much it all tastes the same. But my point being is, like, now there's a wider assortment of different types of beers that they have at the Rock. And you know, this being one of these contests that's kind of like fun. Like normally they give away a car or give away like, you know, whatever the heck that thing was. It's like not a jet ski, whatever the hell they give away. Some other kind of vehicle that they give away with the Devil's stuff slapped all over it. But this is like a super cool and unique opportunity, especially not just for whoever wins this contest, but for the Devils themselves to kind of, you know, put their brand or push their brand further out there.
Well, I mean, I for one thought this was one of the coolest ideas they've come up with in a long time. So, you know, I'm with you. Anything that is it engages the fans more and more, I think it's a great idea. And it's, like you said, I think it's something that Ray Shero is doing with this franchise and that marketing team. And, you know, we've talked to Chris, and Chris is doing great things there. And, you know, they're just they're innovative and it's interesting. And I think getting beer involved was probably the smartest thing they've done.
Oh, 100%. You know, and I think just like we said, the direction of the team on the ice, the direction of the team off of the ice, public relations, everything that Amanda Stein's doing, everything that Chris Ryan's doing, all these people that are involved with the team, it feels like everything is going in such a positive direction. including us, including all of us in this little circle that we have here. I feel like everything is pointing in that right direction. I have a very positive outlook, not just for the season, but I also have like a very positive outlook with this marketing promotion with, Magic Hat. When I win this contest, it's going to be fantastic. I'll be sure to take lots of pictures and send it to you guys so you can see that this off season has been a success. And, I'm just looking forward to all these fun activities that are going to be coming our way.
Beer Baron, before we let you go, I don't know if that's the cue, Nick, but before we let you go, I think you're going to win. I think you're going to win this contest, but we got to have a Let's Go Devils podcast brewery, and we've got to have a state of the fan address beer. What would that look like?
I think Nick just nailed it on the head that it's going to be a brown ale.
Yeah, it would be a state of the beer address, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well put.
I got to look up if one of the 5 million breweries in this country stole that name already, because I feel like that might be too generic, but I feel like, maybe we'll be beers and pitchforks. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We got names to work off of.
Yeah, I already got the cease and desist letters emailed to me right now, so maybe we should end this conversation. But, Beer Baron, thanks for coming on the Bobby's Auto Care Hotline, and you have a good night.
You too, guys. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. That is Beer Baron of the Let's Go Devils podcast, co-host, talking about beers. Wow.
So, Sam, when does the flagship show start again? Remind the fans out there, because I had somebody ask me who Beer Baron was, and we have a lot of new fans, a lot of fan excitement with Goosehead, with Hughes, with Subban. You got to remind them about the flagship.
Well, the flagship podcast on the Let's Go Devils podcast channel on the Primetime Radio Network. The Let's Go Devils podcast started about a couple years ago, and we've exploded. The platform has exploded. We met Nick as one of our guests, and we're going to be going into season 3, myself, Beer Baron, and Shorts Guy, on September 15th, 2019, at our normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And, we've actually gained a lot of traction during the summer while the podcast was actually in a hiatus. We did a few Let's Go Devils podcasts when Jack Hughes was drafted, and then we had the breaking news of PK Subban trade, and then we had Matt Loughlin the following day. So it's so we did some summer stuff, but we do this about 9-10 months of the year, which is taking a little break. But the State of the Fan address will be going year round this year, right?
I take no breaks, Sam. I take no breaks.
Yeah.
I might need to take 1 week off to get married.
I'll hold the fort. Are we going to have no podcast one?
Maybe we could do it on a Tuesday. Maybe we'll do it on a Tuesday that week. Maybe we just shift everybody's schedule.
Yeah. Just well, we could do.
We'll give the people what they want. They just gotta, tune in a little earlier, change their habits.
Why don't you tell the fiance, soon-to-be wife, hey, I know we're supposed to be going to the ceremony right now,
this
but
isn't going to go well for you. However, whatever you're going to say after that, I'm just not even. I'm going to pretend like you didn't say it and that I wasn't listening, just in case. You got to remember, this is recorded, Sam. This can be heard in perpetuity, so I could get in trouble in perpetuity.
Well, you know what? The cameras are running. It's all being recorded. They were just jokes, just kidding around.
Speaking of jokes, let's go play a game.
Okay. Well, I should get our next guest. Let me try to get him, but why don't you talk to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Periscope?
Yeah, I will talk about it. Matt brings up an article that I Probably shouldn't have written this week because we just didn't have a lot of time to talk about it. But we wrote about the 5 players that could be the next New Jersey Devils captain. I will tell you, I'll spoil it for those who haven't read it. I did have Taylor Hall number 1. I still think that he's the most logical person to be the next captain because, he's the leader on the ice. He's still the best player, and the NHL is trending towards giving the best player the captaincy. And I feel like he plays like a captain. He's vocal on the ice. He gets people where they need to be. He stands up for his teammates despite being the star. He's not the guy that skates away when people get into other people's faces. He's right there in their face. So, I think that Hall should be the guy. Kyle Palmieri is the guy that people keep bringing up. And he's the guy that didn't make the list. I'm not going to lie to you. He didn't make my list because I look at where he is in his career. I look at where he is contract status-wise. I believe he has 2 years left in his deal. So that means at the end of this season, he's going to have 1 year left on his deal. And, are you going to give a guy like Palmieri the captaincy without giving him an extension? And I think he deserves an extension. I don't know what you're going to pay him on that extension. That's a good question, actually, to see what he might be worth. It's way too early to ask that because, anything could happen in these next 2 years. But I don't know, Sid, what do you think? Who do you think should be the next captain of the New Jersey Devils when Green steps down?
That's a good question, Nick, because you've got the Taylor Hall situation. You don't want another Zach Parise situation where you give him the captaincy and then he's gone and leaves the team hanging. Jack Hughes, he's still young. I think this, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. If he has another great year, Blake Coleman.
Ooh, I kind of like Coleman. That.
Because he's got all the intangibles. He's respected. I would even put in Kyle Palmieri as well.
A lot of people are saying Palms. A lot of people are saying Palms.
Ramona Rice is saying Nico. So, there's plenty of good choices out there. But, I love Andy Green. But, I'm not sure if the end is near. But the future is upon us. And it's a good time to start thinking about this. So, but.
The end is definitely near. Yeah. You ready to play a game?
Yeah, I'm ready to play a game because this guy's fired up on the Bobby's Auto Care Hotline. Like, I'm patching him in. Like, I'm 2-0 right now in this games we do at the end of the podcast. And Rob Deluca of Pucks and Pitchforks is on the Bobby's Auto Care Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Robbies_Deluca95. Rob, you're on the air with Sam and Nick. Are you ready to challenge me in this game? Because I don't know how to play this game yet.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's see if I can take you down.
All right, so
okay, go ahead.
So the game is Devils Have I Ever. So I'm kind of taking Never Have I Ever, but the opposite. So it's the only people who have done this specific thing that I'm going to say. So we're going to go Family Feud. Well, I guess it's not really Family Feud style. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for example, New Jersey Devils who have scored more than 30 goals in a season. That's not going to be one of them because there's too many of it, but that's the example. And then I'm going to say, Rob, name one. And then if he gets it right, then Sam, you'll get a chance to answer. And then we'll go back and forth until one of you gets it wrong. So we're going to see how this goes. This could go very terribly if neither of you get any of these right.
And no Google. I don't have my phone here, so no Google. I don't want to see any cheating.
I already told Rob not to cheat.
No.
See, Rob, we're on the same page here.
Yeah. I'm just staring at the podcast right now, actually. You've been listening the whole time. It's been a good show.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Like-
we'll start with. All right, I got a bunch of ones up here. Okay, we'll start with one that has some of the best Devils of all time on, just to kind of give you a little clue to start. Okay, and we're going to start with Rob on the first game since Rob is the guest. So, Devils have I ever been on the ice for more than 1,000 goals scored? So that means that this player has been on the ice while 1,000 goals have been scored. He obviously didn't score all 1,000, but if he did, it would also count. So he is total goals on ice for more than 1,000. There are 5 people who have done it in a Devils uniform. I got to make sure I got this dimensions right. There are 5. So, Rob, who is a New Jersey Devils player that's been on the ice for 1,000 goals?
Well, did our goaltenders excluded from this?
Yes, this is only forwards and defensemen.
Okay. All right, then I will try to start it easy and start with Patrick Elias.
Patrick Elias is the number 1 player on this. He's been on the ice for 1,316 goals. We're down to 4, Sam. Sam, Devils have I ever?
Ken Danico?
Oof. Sam. No. You lost. You lost this round already.
No, wait a second here. Now,
Ken Danico has been on the ice. Ken Danico has been on the ice for 985 goals. Sam, you missed it by 15.
well, I just gave Rob a head start. Just a head start.
Plenty of time for me to blow.
I blame the lockouts. I blame the strikes. He should have had more. Goals called back because somebody's foot's in the crease. Sorry, I missed that one.
He wasn't there for the 3-on-3 overtimes, but he probably wouldn't be on the ice for those. So just so for all of you players at home, to round out the list, Scott Stevens was on for 1,166 goals. Scott Niedermayer was on for 1,160 goals. John McClain was on for 1,024 goals. And this one kind of surprised me because, he didn't spend his whole career here, but Bruce Driver, 1,004 goals. So
wow.
we are at. So, Sam, I'm going to let you go first in this next one. Devils have I ever scored more than 3 hat tricks in my career. So if you've scored 3, it does not count. You need to have 4 or more hat tricks as a member of the New Jersey Devils. Sam, Devils have I ever?
Oh, jeez. Elias
is number 1. He has scored 8 hat tricks in his New Jersey Devils career. We go to Rob. Rob, Devils have I ever?
Devil have I? Oh man, I'm gonna have to.
I'll give you a clue. I would say think of the eras.
Yeah, that's really what I'm going with. I'm trying to think of the dominant years of my childhood, and this is probably a bad answer, but I'm gonna go for Johnny Madden.
No, Johnny Madden is incorrect. I thought you had it right because number 2 on the list is John McClain. He had 6.
Thinking him too.
I was trying to push you more into the 80s where it was the score a million goals Mickey Mouse era. But
Pat Verbeek on the list?
Pat Verbeek is number 3. He had 5 hat tricks in his Devils career. You could probably guess one other one, Sam, if you really tried. It's another guy from that era.
Let me get 2 guesses. Peter Stastny?
Okay. No.
Aaron Broughton?
No, but it's a guy who played next to Aaron Broughton.
Joe Cirilla.
No, didn't Kirk Muller play on a line with Aaron Broughton?
Kirk Muller. I always think of him as an assist guy. I always thought of him as this guy.
Kirk Muller had 4 himself, and then Sam, I feel like I'm a pretty knowledgeable Devils fan. I have no idea who this guy is. Wilf Piement?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I mean, according to Felony Strutter on YouTube Live, I don't know anything prior to 2000. So no, you know what? You're going back early 80s when a lot of these games were out of reach and the other team felt bad. So I don't remember that guy, but you're talking when I was 4 years old.
It's fair. Well, we'll go to do you guys want, so we have 3 left. Do you want an easy one or do you want a hard one? Sam, you're hosting with me. Do you want the easy one or hard one first?
Yeah, we got to end with the hard one. We got to always end. We're tied 1-1 right now.
Yeah, we got to try to challenge ourselves.
All right. So we got two fairly easy ones. We'll go with game-winning goals. Devils have I ever scored more than 30 game-winning goals in their career in the red and black. And I will say there are some very interesting but well-known names on this list. So we have 6 players who have scored more than 30 game-winning goals. Rob, Devils have I ever?
I gotta just keep the trend. Man, all right, 30 game-winning goals.
More than 30.
I gotta go. Gotta stick with it. He's the all-time leading scorer for a reason. Patrick Elias.
Patrick Elias is number 1. He has 80 game-winning goals. That is ridiculous. Sam, I'm worried. There's a lot of interesting.
Jaromir Jagr.
No, it's only on the Devils, Sam. Just on the Devils.
Only on the Devils?
Yes. I'll give you a mulligan.
No. I'll figure this out on my own. I can only use players, past 2000.
There are players past 2000 on this list.
Peter Sikora.
Peter Sikora is on the list. Good guess. He's number 6. He's got 31 game-winning goals as a New Jersey Devil. That was good, Sam.
Thank you.
Very good.
He was past 2000.
All right, Rob. Rob, Devil have I ever?
I'm gonna get weird here, and
oh boy,
only because he had so many stints with the Devils. Brian Ralston.
No, you were close though. Brian Ralston had 26 game-winning goals.
You got to say Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack has to be on the list.
Yeah, John McClain had 55. He's number 2 on the list. This is the one
Claude
that
Lemieux?
kind of Claude Lemieux did not make the list.
Wow.
He's not even in the top 10, interestingly enough. Number 3 is Bobby Holik. He had 43 game-winning goals.
His line mate, of course.
Yeah. Number 4 on the list is Zach Parise. We could just move on. Number 5 on the list is Jamie Langenbrunner.
Wow.
I didn't think he was there long enough to score that many game-winning goals. He must have one of those weird seasons where he scored like 15.
Well, back in those days, if you think about it, the Devils only scored 2 or 3 goals. So, they didn't score much. They played well defensively. So, if you just happen to score that goal, have a 2-0 lead and the game ends 2-1 as you're holding on to it, that technically is a game-winning goal. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I'm up 2-1 right now.
Sam is winning. Peter Sikora saving Sam. All right. So I forget who goes first this one. All right. So
Rob.
next, Rob, we want to see the person, the player in a Devils uniform who has more than 100 plus minus. So a better than plus 100 over his Devils career. I know plus minus is a useless stat, but we're using it tonight for the game.
Yeah. Oh man. All right.
Come on, Rob. This is an easy one. I almost wanted to just like.
What did you say?
I can't really think of players other than my childhood years, so I just got to stick to Patrick Elias. I can't not say him.
Okay, I mean Patrick Elias, he is one of 5 players on the list. So Patrick Elias is a plus 172 in his Devils days. Sam?
Oh, this game is so easy. Scott Stevens.
Scott Stevens is number 1, plus 282. Ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Plus 282. So Rob, Devils have I ever?
Scott Niedermayer.
Scott Niedermayer is tied with Elias for number 2 on the list with plus 172. We're down to 2, Sam. 2 names on the list. You guys are on a roll. Can you clear the board?
Wait. Oh. I'm trying to think who was good defensively.
Yeah. I'll give you guys a clue. They are both forwards.
Oh, that does.
Because I knew you were just going to say Ken Danico, and I was just trying to save you.
I was not.
Let me think. No, I'm just trying to think because there was a lot of players that had long careers. I mean, so short careers with the Devils.
Plus minus is hard because it's not necessarily a you don't just get the stat because it's not a longevity stat.
I almost want to say Sergei Brylin, but the thing is, he played against some top lines back in the day, so I'm not going to say him. And they're a forward. I mean, problem with Arnott is he wasn't good defensively, so I'm not going to say him. Bobby Holik, I'm kind of scared to say. Shoot. I'm going to...
5 seconds.
John Madden.
John Madden is incorrect. We will go to a 5th and decisive round.
Who are the other 2?
Number 4 is Bobby Holik.
Shoot. Well, I wouldn't have known Bobby prior to 2000, so I didn't get that right.
Fair. But he had that second stint. He had that second stint with the Devils in what was it, 2008? Number 5, if you didn't know before 2000s, Randy McKay. Randy McKay, wow. Number 5, plus 115. Now, number 6, poor and a very underrated Devils career. And this just shows that he just misses these lists. But Brian Rafalski was number 6 at an even plus 100.
I was going to say him if Sam got another one right. And you didn't tell me it was forward.
Yeah, well, that's fair. All right. So we go to a 5th and decisive round. And I'm going to give you ample opportunity to make this happen. I want you to tell me the players that have at least half an assist per game in a Devils uniform. Sam, let's let you go first.
Patrick Elias.
No.
Wait, what?
No, he's a goal scorer.
Right.
So, Rob, if you can name one of the 10 people on this list who has more than a half an assist per game in a Devils uniform, you win the game. You take down the undefeated Sam.
Oh boy! All right. Thinking about just his Devils career, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I should say a defenseman, but I might want to stick to a forward.
Those are your two options, unless you want to go goalie.
I mean, something tells me Marty Brodeur was so close, but may have just missed that mark.
Yeah, probably so.
So, you know what? For the time he was a Devil, the first time, I'm going to go with the center, Scott Gomez.
Scott Gomez is correct. Scotty Gomez ranks 4th on the list with, I guess he's tied for second on the list with Tom Curvers and Kirk Muller, both at 0.6 assists per game. Number 5 is Mike McEwen. 6, you got Lanny McDonald. 7 is Patrick Sundstrom. Number 8, Mel Bridgman. 9, Ilya Kovalchuk, gross. 10, Peter Stastny. But number 1 on the assists per game list is number 9 himself, Mr. Taylor Hall.
Well,
Sam, I'm going to pull a Pierre on you. I'm going to go talk to the loser. Sam, how do you feel?
I feel like I was cheated. It was a gutless question. I don't want to talk about it.
Rob, you came, you saw, you conquered. How do you feel?
Oh, this feels good. Sam's one of the more knowledgeable Devils fans I know, so to take him down, especially when he was undefeated, feels great.
Hey, where's the beef?
There was a lot of beef on the list, Sam. There's a lot of beef.
You know what? I don't know why I picked. I mean, I could have picked Scott Niedermayer. Was he on the list?
He wasn't. There wasn't many defensemen on the list.
Oh, you know what? This was a trick question. I'm just gonna call. I'm just gonna call a review. I'm gonna throw the flag. I don't know.
Sam, I told you the hard one was the last one. Did I not?
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
you
when
made me
you got
go
Patrick
first.
Sundstrom.
You made me go first. No,
Yeah, you went in cocky as heck.
Hey, you know what? Congratulations, Rob. We'll talk to you off air. Maybe I'll send you something just for beating me, because you better hold on to it when I send you, because that's the last time you're ever going to beat me.
Well, all right. I've had a lot of fun on this, guys. It was great.
And I'll send you a $10 gift certificate for Bobby's Auto Care for being on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline. Bobby's Auto Care, 2151 Route 57 in beautiful Washington, New Jersey. See you later, Rob.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's. I should have closed because I'm already pissed. See you later, Rob. See you later, Rob.
But I wanted the good radio, Sam. I was willing to sacrifice your happiness for good radio. And I feel like you do the same to me.
Oh yeah, I mean we're always having fun here. I mean, people on Facebook Live.
They were playing along.
Yeah,
they're playing along real well.
I kind of like these games. And you know what? Hey, you know what? Maybe I should be like take a page out of the little leaguers. After getting smacked with a home run, you see that kid run to the third baseline as the guy that hit the home run and give him a high five, the pitcher. Yeah, well, high five, Rob.
There you go. High five to Rob.
Yeah. I mean, those questions, prior to 2000, they're pretty tricky. I don't know any of them, but we play on. Anyway, wow, this is a great podcast tonight. Chris Ryan of NJ.com, Beer Baron talking beers, Rob Deluca pulling off the biggest upset in the history of hockey since Miracle on Ice. Wow. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that was my one loss on my record? Trying to stump the Woo.
So are you the Schwab now? You the devil of Schwab?
Yeah. Speaking of
I'm
Schwab,
gonna think of something fun for next week. Next week I think we're for what we have set up so far, Sam, we're talking fantasy next week. Fantasy hockey.
Ooh.
Maybe we'll do something with fantasy themed. I don't know. I got to think of it. I think of these games on Monday, Sam. You know this.
Yep. Well, it's because you have to keep it fair because you know what I'm going to be doing like tomorrow. So what are we going to play? What are we going to play? What are we going to play?
Yeah.
It's like a little kid. Are we going to play? Can you give me a clue? Can you give me some of the questions? Those are the kind of text messages you get from me, Thursday morning. But
yeah. I feel like I'm definitely going to get it. You want redemption now. Oh,
yeah. Like, I'm just going to go Wikipedia and study everything about the New Jersey Devils like I used to. I'm going to study the stats. I'm going to start memorizing everything.
So maybe you'll actually look at something that's before the year 2000?
Yeah, maybe.
What happened, Sam? What happened, Sam, is you watched a lot of Devils before the year 2000, but then Y2K happened, and it didn't affect our electronics, but it did affect your brain.
Yeah, it did short circuit. Maybe I'll call my buddy Kurt that has a VCR, and with his 94 Stanley Cup VHS, and borrow his VCR, and maybe I'll watch some old games just to get familiar, of Kirk Muller. Or
why are you watching a 94 Stanley Cup?
No, Kurt, he's a big Ranger fan, but he keeps his VCR. The joke is he keeps his VCR so he can watch the Stanley Cup video. But, I still watch ours, with a DVD player, new technology.
Oh, you fancy.
Yeah. Do they still do DVDs, or Blu-ray or something like that? Oh, okay. So
I go to the Walmart and there's the big bin, the big $5 DVD bin. You get every Dwayne Johnson The Rock movie that's ever been made, and there's like 200 of them all in this bin. This is bin of The Rock.
You want to know something? You want to know something really funny? I'll tell you this story. When I was in college, the Devils won the Stanley Cup in 2000, and everybody was waiting on the Stanley Cup videos, when they were going to come out. And here I am in Middle Pennsylvania. For whatever reason, Walmart decided that was Devils country. So you're in between Penguins fans and Flyer fans. They had probably a stack in a nice circle of probably about 500 to 700 of these VHS tapes. But nobody could get it back home because they were just flying off the shelves. It was called Second Heaven, I believe. And I see this in the middle of Pennsylvania. So I bought one, right? Thinking, yes, I got it. I got it before my friends, this and that. And I took it home and I put it in the VHS, the VCR. And when I pulled it out of the sleeve, it looked like either, I don't know if it was by accident, but that VHS tape, although it looked like it was in mint condition, fell apart when I pulled it out of there. And I was like, those Flyer fans are still pissed off. So
I mean, they've
back
been mad since the 70s.
Oh yeah. So, but let me cue the music. I'm trying to look for
Cue the music.
You know, I'm a terrible producer.
Sam, I think we've given them too much content tonight. I think we should have saved some of it.
I didn't say much tonight till the end. How about you?
I needed you for the beginning and the end. Yep. I didn't have to say much either. We had Chris talking a lot. We had Beer Baron talking his beer, and then we played a game. I didn't have to say much. Those are the best nights. That's why I don't have to say much. It means that we're doing a good job, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pat ourselves on the back some more. But in all seriousness, thank you for Chris Ryan of NJ.com for taking the time out after his honeymoon to come on to the State of the Fan Address, episode 19. Also, Beer Baron, thank you for coming on, talking about beers. Hopefully you win the contest. And Rob Deluca, congratulations. You beat me. You better remember this moment. Your life has peaked. I will get you next time. Until next time, we'll be dropping the podcast around midnight. Till then, let's go Devils.